Hi, welcome to Hear the Music on InView TV. How you going, guys?
We are very well, thank you. We are thrilled to be here in Australia.
We are.
My name is Bruce Mott, and I'm here with Strangelove, the Depeche Mode experience. How about we start off with some introductions?
Leo Lugansky as Ultra Dave.
James Evans in the flesh.
Julian Shah-Taylor, Oscar Wilder.
My name is Brent Meyer, and I go by Counterfeit Martin.
And what part or instruments do you play in the band?
Lead vocals.
Backing keys, backing vocals.
Fronting keys, fronting, backing vocals.
Keyboards, guitar, and vocals.
And melodica.
That's right. Yeah, and the fluty thing, melodica.
So you've been in Australia around about 2 weeks now. So how do you think the tour has been going?
It's been wonderful. We love Australia. The audiences are incredibly enthusiastic. I think we've pretty much sold out or close to sold out all the shows. So it feels like Depeche Mode are a beloved band in this country.
Yes, I'd add that Depeche Mode themselves haven't been to these shores since 1994. And so I think the thirst for a live iteration of Depeche Mode is very real. And I think that's partially why audiences have been so receptive to our shows, just because there hasn't been any Depeche Mode happening in Australia for 25 or what odd years. So we're very happy to fill the void, so to speak.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is not the first time you brought Strangelove to Australia, is that right?
It's the second time around, and so far it's equally amazing. I think we're playing our, one of our best shows in terms of everything, crowds, production, the way it feels. There is something really, unique about this whole experience. Traveling so far away to do it has its own charm, I think. Yeah, so we're very, very grateful for that.
We will be back.
You're coming back?
Next year, we're already in the planning stages.
Well, that's brilliant to hear that you're coming back next year. I'm sure there's going to be many fans out there that are very excited to hear that. Speaking of fans, typically what sort of fans are coming to your gigs? Like, what's the age group that come along?
It's a bit mixed, really. Depeche Mode themselves have sold about 120 million records. And so they truly are one of those ages 8 to 80 bands. But their core demographic is Gen Xers, people who are in their 40s, 50s. Who grew up with it in the 80s and 90s, coming up in school and college and all of that. So as part of their youth growing up. And I think as one of those sort of formative identity identifying lifestyle bands for a lot of people at that age, it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. And as they get older, they still retain that deep connection to it that goes just beyond loving some songs by a musical group.
So how did the band come about? Strangelove, the Depeche Mode experience. How did the band come about, and why did you choose Depeche Mode as the band that you're going to pay tribute to?
Back to me. I started the first iteration of this project in 2006, and I'd, as all involved here, I've been involved in several musical projects and worn many hats as artists, producers, and contributors to other projects. But it's just something I've always loved Depeche Mode's music, of course, but it came from a sense that I could do the role of the person whose parts I'm recreating, Martin Gore. I thought I could do it justice vocally, which I thought was most important under the auspices of being a tribute band, especially one where there's a one-to-one member analog of each member. A lot of tribute bands, they just kind of have a singer that's a bit close and then just some guys playing instruments. But I felt very strongly building this that I wanted it to be, oh, that's the John, that's the George, that's the Ringo. You know exactly who everybody is representing visually as well as the hallmarks of their performance style beyond just the mere recreating parts.
And do you have a connection or relationship now with Depeche Mode, the actual band themselves?
All the ones that come to me. Yeah. We'll pass it around more later, I promise. Yes, I'd first met Martin Gore probably 2006 at a DJ charity event in Santa Barbara, and told him what I was doing, and he was initially, really supportive. I actually came dressed as him, which was a bit squirrely, and I think he was a bit worried. Is who's this mental person? But once we started speaking, and he realized I was normal, just wanted to get a photo for our website and all of that. In that context, then yeah, he was very friendly and approachable, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit more through the years. And Julian can tell you, but yeah, Alan Wilder, the person he portrays, has even shared with the band some sampler sounds that they've recorded, straight off their master tapes and all of that. So that really helps push the authenticity of the project.
And both Leo and I have worked with Martin's daughter in a capacity. I remixed some stuff, and Leo produced something with their band. They're called Weird Wolves. Weird Wolves?
Yeah.
And that's Ava Gore, who's Martin's daughter.
I produced one of their songs called Dancing in Hell. So the torture and darkness continues, with their kids, same themes and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So, Leo, what were your thoughts when Brent, who started the band, contacted you and said, hey, do you want to come and join Strangelove, the Depeche Mode experience?
Yeah, well, I was kind of like, I think it was the right time for me to make that step, because as Brent was saying earlier, it's been kind of like suggested to us since the beginning of our careers, whatever we were doing at the beginning, so that kind of like made sense, at that very point. And yeah, like I was really excited. And, like given that I just kind of like was ending up accidentally running into Dave Gahan, kind of like almost like once in a couple of years, like around like May. So I kind of started to see it as some kind of a symbol, of something. And, I guess it was, not that I'm too much into like woo-woo magic, waka waka magic, what have you. Yeah, that was the process. And yeah, like I had a couple of things that were suggestive towards Depeche Mode online, and they came across some of my renditions, and I guess it was enough for them to make up their minds to try me in that project. And now that we're here so far away, I'm quoting someone else, but it works.
And Julian, what about you?
Yes. Well, I met Brent and James at a show where it was a tribute show, and I was playing David Bowie, and I hit it off very well with Brent because he's a pretty upstanding fellow. I like him. And for some strange reason, he took a punt and asked me if I play keyboards along the... Wait a minute. That's not enough.
Amazing.
And he just took a punt and asked me if I played keyboards, and not knowing that I'm classically trained to grade 8 on piano. So yeah, I do play keyboards reasonably well. And then it sort of transpired from there. So I decided, okay, I'll check out this Depeche Mode band. Wasn't really a fan. And then I discovered that actually they're quite good. So I joined the band, and that's, 6 years ago now?
8.
I've been in the band 8 years? No, 7, because my daughter is nearly 8, and she was born by this point. It's 7-ish years. Oh, God. Amazing. But that was really fun. To James.
I've been around the band for 10-ish years.
Kind of a group.
I started as a fan because I was a friend of one of the original members, and then life came around, and I was their roadie for 2 years, hauling their gear around while their beloved fans were adoring them after shows and cleaning up their stuff, and then finally got into the band and have been a mainstay ever since.
So the last gig of the tour is tomorrow night at the Factory Theatre in Sydney.
A sold out gig to go.
Yeah, of course, that's right. Another sold out gig. Then what's your plans when you get back to the US?
We have a lot of plans. We're heading actually up to Vancouver in Canada, where we're playing a show, and then we're doing a whole bunch of stuff on the West Coast before we start a tour with Flock of Seagulls as their support act, which will be a lot of fun. We're all huge fans of Flock of Seagulls. We're recording something for a vinyl release that will be released in Mexico. As a band, we've decided that we're going to put something together. It's original material, and we're very excited about that because obviously that's going to be something we can sell, and also inures us against the naysayers because we get the trolls who say, "Why don't you do your own music? Why do you do tribute?" And
If they would only knew.
Right, we're all very active in that front, so we're actually going to have something to sell at shows, which is evidence of that. So that's kind of fun and cool.
Yeah, I'd hasten to add that adding to the legitimacy of that claim, Julian here was just a handful of weeks or perhaps a month ago now, was nominated for a Grammy in the United States. Similar, I believe, to your ARIA Awards, and for one of his original tunes that was just released this past year. So it's kind of laughable when people ask, why don't you do other things? And we're all very active and have music in all sorts of media, TV, video games, films even, and Julian can expound upon that for you. But
we're also stylistically very ambiguous.
Exactly. We're all over. We come to Depeche Mode collectively from very different places. But Depeche Mode in their 42 plus year career thus far, they are one of the progenitors of new wave and synth pop, but they've evolved so much along the way and have also had a hand in creating or defining all of these other subgenres. And I think that's what is of interest to all of us artistically as original artists, is that different eras of Depeche Mode's music appeal to us and hit us differently. So I think that's interesting that those all can kind of happily coexist within one ecosystem.
Have Depeche Mode themselves come to one of your gigs?
If they have, they've done it in secret. I saw a guy with a weird like mustache at the back the other day. Looked very much like. No, probably not.
So in December, you're touring Vancouver. And then for 2023, you're coming to Australia. But tell us all your plans for 2023.
It's the Flock of Seagulls for the first couple of months. Then we are in the process of rebooking the Australian tour. Well, we're pre-process. And we're looking at a European tour as well, which hopefully should happen, mid-year. But we're also building up in the US into more the sort of casino and performing arts centers. That's our goal for 2023, which is a worthy goal. And we love to bring Depeche Mode to our Depeche family however we can in all contexts.
Yeah, I'd add there, while we primarily play domestically within the U.S., we typically do 80 to 100 shows a year. We're on the road pretty much 50 weeks a year. This is all we do. And so there's a lot of air travel and hotel frequent flyer points in our collective bin. But we love the lifestyle. It's a great work-life balance because we get to be home with our families during the week and get to experience that normalcy. And it's not like a lot of bands that are, on an album release, 6-week to 6-month tour cycle where they're away from their life and kind of detached from everything. It's nice. We get to kind of do that on a weekly basis, on a micro level, and retain connection to our family and friends, and also have our hand in all these other professional projects that we're involved in. And that's how we're able to balance the two of those is just by doing, a few shows every week and coming home.
This tour, like the previous tour, you did the capital cities. Are you going to do the regional areas next time?
We would absolutely love to. We need to hear from people out there. Where should we come? We look at around 1,000 capacity venues, and this tour has been slightly smaller than we would have preferred. I mean, the main cities, of course, we've returned to the ones that we played the first tour. But yes, we'd love to add Canberra, for example. But we need to hear from people. Would they come? Can your viewers? I mean, can they get in touch with us?
Of course. Everyone out there, add your thoughts to the comments right now. Let the guys know.
That would be wonderful. Yes, please.
It would also be interesting if they could suggest somewhere that we can drive from. For example, like playing like Canberra, one evening and then drive to maybe Sydney. So just that's kind of how we do it. In America. And possibly in Europe, where you can kind of do that type of like a road trip type of a thing, because that gives more of that perspective off of what this whole thing is all about, really. Yeah. So
also something that's very useful for us, if your people watching could follow the page and make suggestions for requests, because there are songs that we didn't prepare for this tour that we've had consistently requested. And, that might be useful for us because we're very happy to work those songs up. I think next year what we're probably going to do, we've been talking about it, is the Songs of Faith and Devotion tour. Because last time we were here, it was Violator, where we covered all of Violator and the B-sides.
Kind of like a theme show, that is specifically about that, devotional / exotic tour with all those, adjusted renditions, and yeah.
And it went down very, very well. It was a contained. Then we play the whole of the album. Then we play all the hits that are left over. But as I say, any suggestions and requests, we don't know what the biggest hits were in Australia compared to America or compared to the UK. Sorry. So that would be useful feedback for anybody watching.
But we have a feeling that since I'm also kind of like a big fan of like Australian progressive rock and metal scene, and according to how well devotional tour went, it could be that they're like very kind of like darker rock inclined type of audiences that might be really into it. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah, we have noted based on how much we travel, the difference between markets and countries. Certain songs that were big hits, like there's one in US that is one of our biggest fan faves at every show. We tried it the first night here in Australia, and it was a clunker. Nobody had heard it. I mean, there were, probably 3 to 5 people in the audience that were aware of it.
Absolutely thrilled.
Yes, they were elated, but it largely just fell on, deaf ears and confused stares because they just simply weren't familiar. And obviously we want to, spend all of our stage time performing material that resonates with the audience that they're largely familiar with.
And one of the things we pride ourselves in is that compared to the live iteration of Depeche Mode, who have the album cycles and are promoting albums, we try to focus on the fan favorites, the hits, the people, that people remember, like, for example, People Are People or Just Can't Get Enough, which very rarely make the original band's sets these days. So we want to do fan service. That is exactly what a tribute band is supposed to do. And so we want to do it bespoke for whichever territory we're in. For example, we missed out I Feel You this tour, and that was a big one. Everybody's been requesting I Feel You, and we just haven't prepared it, and we don't have the time to prepare it between shows. So unfortunately, we've had to miss it out. Anyway, you get the impression.
But we also want to deliver it in a certain fashion that the audiences would be, expecting, just like what we were telling before, how those like extra 90 days of the exotic tour, and there was a certain, imagery and the sound going with that. So it could be a good thing that, we're gonna, come back, with that type of a dark rock, melancholy, and really, really kind of have that type of, like a production. So if that's something that you're into, we would like to hear your opinion about that.
Right. I think that also resonates so much with Aussies because that was the last time Depeche Mode performed here, was in '94. And so that was, most people here, that was their last live impression of what they deliver in their live concerts. So we'd be thrilled to, sort of try to pinpoint accuracy and recreate that setting and visuals, costume design, all of that, specific instruments they used on those tours. We actually spend a fair amount of time reverse engineering things from the songs themselves with the synths and all the kit used to produce those songs to, specific stage set designs specific to an era or things like that.
So we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on the show. Who's going to say the final words on behalf of the band? Anyone? Any volunteers?
Just want to say thank you to all the fans that came out. Loved being here. Wish the weather had been a little nicer like today is. Today is beautiful. It's been cold most of the time, but have had very warm reception from all the crowds. And thanks very much for the support.
Let's leave him with the last word.
Okay, what? Wait a minute. Who's this?
Oh my goodness, you have to welcome Ash from Caligula. He was supporting Depeche Mode in 1994, is that correct?
That's entirely true there, Julian.
Fabulous. Well, welcome to our interview. Now go over there.
Exactly during their extra exotic tour leg, those 90 days made it count.
I'm sorry? So what are you doing now? Well, why are you here?
Just going for a jog. I have to have full body clothes on to go out in the sunlight, the same as you guys. But Caligula are doing their last show for the year with these guys. And then we're doing more next year. That's about as far forward planned as I have.
Fabulous. Thank you, Ash.
Good chat.
That's a good runabout.
Anyway,
What a coinkydink. What a coinkydink.
It's all about beauty. It's all about passion. It's all about change. It's all inclusive every day of the week. When the